to start the meeting, shall we?
Yes.
We have a quorum?
Yes.
Yes. Well, we
5 out
have
of the
8
8.
people on the committee, and we have 1,
5 out
2,
of
3,
the
4, 5 here. So that's quorum, right?
Yep.
5, oh, Chana.
1, 2, 3, 4. Am I missing?
1, 2,
Oh,
3,
they're
4, 5. Chana.
Okay, 5.
In the corner.
In the corner. Okay, let's call this meeting to order. All right. It is 7:05. Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Glassell Park Neighborhood Council Joint Meeting Economic
Good, so it
Development
would be a perfect time.
Land Use Committee.
Expose.
Meeting. Just say that. It says meeting on it.
Yeah.
This is the one I downloaded from
Oh.
the website.
Yes.
It's meeting. Is that Chinese?
Oh, Mikyong, yes. I
Meeting.
understand.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right, cool. And I have
Okay.
to,
My name is Ruby DeBera. I'm the co-chair of this committee. Our other co-chair is on his way. He just arrived last night from France.
yeah.
So he should be here.
My name is Bradley. I am one of the committee members and also a general board member, business rep.
And I'm March Piani, organization rep on the board as well.
Colleen Schlock, I'm just on this committee.
Chana Grace.
Who's on the phone?
On the phone.
Oh, are you supposed to?
It's okay.
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 Oh,
5 out of 8.
We have quorum, fine.
5 out of 8.
Okay.
Since we don't have any
We're doing it.
public official here, do we have any public comments from the public?
This is on stuff that's not on the agenda, right? Or do we have something placed for that as well?
Well, no, you're right. You're right. If it's not on the agenda, then it's public comment.
Okay, I just have a question about what's going on, and I know I'm supposed to recuse myself, but I just have a question about what's going on at 2266 Moss Ave, back in the paper last Thursday. I know
Which
we keep
paper?
hearing that nothing's happening for a year, but things aren't happening.
On Moss? Which paper is this?
If
The
I-
LA Times, it
Oh,
writes,
the LA Times?
every
Some of the
Thursday,
environmentals.
every Thursday they print the environmentals.
Right.
And
And
this
so-
one says, there's an environmental, and it gives the number,
Mhm.
2266 West Moss Ave, Northeast LA, CD1, construction, use, and maintenance of a 2,887 square foot with a proposed 2,379 square foot residential floor area, 3-story, 34 feet 5 inch in height, single-family dwelling with attached 2-car garage, 6-foot side yard setbacks in lieu of the 11 feet required on a 5,712 square foot property in the RE20-1 zone. The project would require a zoning administrator's adjustment and a project permit compliance with the Mount Washington Glassell Park specific plan. Review comment period ends July 8th.
And if I may,
Yes.
Helene was courteous enough to send us that information on that project. I believe what I did when I did the research downtown is the environmental mitigation negative declaration was issued with the conditions of approval, and until the expiration date of the appeal, they won't even set it for a hearing. If
So
there's
what is
just,
this public comment period ends July 8th?
that means that if you have any issues of contingency, any issues of concerns, if you have any issues you want to address, the time to do that would be before.
So
Sure.
now,
So now,
not a year from now, like Andrew keeps saying, that, you know, nothing's gonna happen with this property for a year.
It's still not going to happen for another year.
but you still want to
But-
put your comments in.
You want to put your comments in the environmental section. That doesn't mean
Right.
that they're going to
But
revise
this
the,
side yard request is ridiculous.
but that should be handled at the public hearing.
But we can't send, we wouldn't be able to send a letter saying we don't support changing the side yard requirements?
The committee can send whatever they want, as long as it's, of course, requested on the agenda here. But I think with regard to the environmental, it's up to the committee how it ever wants to handle it.
Right,
Entirely
I
up
just
to the
feel
committee.
misled by Andrew, who kept telling me nothing would happen for a year.
If
I don't
may.
mean digging in the ground, I mean what is the process for protesting this way too big house on this lot? I'm not saying they can't build, I'm
Ruby?
saying they
Well, I
can't
know
build that
But we
big.
have,
Ruby,
yeah, no.
Helene.
Kelly,
I just want to say that I put notice out to community members because this, I think this committee has had a lot of notice about this project being of interest to individuals and has not taken it up. So we missed the boat on it for this time period for public comment, and I am making sure that the information about this that I sent out to the committee, that I've also sent out to others so they have the option of acting as individuals.
Mhm.
this
Yeah.
is the same gentleman that never showed up at the meeting.
Right.
Twice.
Oh, twice, yeah, right.
At least twice, if
So-
not more often. And the fact that we just never took it up because, oh, he's not here, let's move on.
He's not ready.
As I'm saying, that doesn't fly. He's never gonna show up. The deal is, he's never gonna show up and we're never gonna address this issue. And yes, I live across the street from this lot, but this is the same thing that happens all over the place. And yeah, my neighbors are really, really upset that we're not dealing with this.
Well, we could deal with it, with, that notice, the negative mitigation notice that you sent us. We can
Yes.
respond to
I
that.
think Helene said that, yeah, she did.
We can respond, you got a copy.
Oh, yeah, she was very clear about sending it to us.
I have a question, so can things still go in the file
Of course,
even after the public notice?
it always
So it can-
does.
So it can go in the file, so it would seem to me that
It's,
a way to
we
address
still
it
have
would
it on
be
hold.
to make
according
sure
our-
that it's on next month's agenda, that we summarize kind of
I
what
think that's
Marge
a smart
is
idea.
saying,
It-
and that we get, our comments together, make a recommendation to the board,
Right.
and they, assuming they buy
I
off
think that
on
makes
it,
sense.
it goes into the file. And then
Yeah.
when it's time for the public hearing, it would seem to me, Helene and whomever else, you have to recuse yourself,
I do.
but everybody else could mobilize and show up at the public hearing.
Yeah.
And that would be a way to address that and to make, our, assuming the board agrees,
Right.
make our opinion known
Mhm.
to all three council
Right,
offices
Right.
and the hearing administrator.
But just make it clear, because I know we have to move on to the agenda. The public comment period is ending for the environmental. There's still going to have to be a public comment period for the variance as a whole.
Oh, well then that's. great.
Remember, there's always because you have two different segments of that process. One is the environmental, and the other one is the variance.
Got it.
In my opinion,
Mhm.
it's great that we submit something for the environmental, but the impact comes
On
from the actual
very,
variance.
yeah, I remember.
That's just my opinion. I'm not
Right,
advocating that. I'm just saying that's what my opinion is.
Mhm.
But I think it's smart that we should put it on the upcoming agenda.
Yeah.
Well,
I
our
would recommend
next
we do
agenda
that.
will be past this period. This is
It's
7,
still
8.
okay.
Well, that's for the environmental, though.
Yeah,
That's for the environmental, we can go on record now
we should
for,
go on
regarding the
record.
variance.
We have something
And
to say about this.
getting the board to take a letter, I think we could do that.
And keep in mind, the ZA can, at its discretion, make changes on the environmental at the public hearing.
Right.
And they have done that on many occasions.
Okay.
That ought to be
I can vouch for that.
Yes, Ellie.
Also, did everyone receive by email through our website a notice from Kathleen Hill about the garden nursery school?
Yes.
And did you contact her?
I did.
And,
And I asked her if she wanted to be on this agenda, and she said no, she wanted to wait till the next one.
okay.
Yeah, I did contact her too.
Oh, you
Yeah,
contacted her?
she did respond. Okay.
Oh, she responded to me like yesterday.
She did. He's here. They were questioning 2266 Moss. Did you get a copy of that
Yes, I did get
mitigated?
the,
negative mitigation?
I did.
It's
Mark suggested that we respond to that, although the hearing is July 8th. And our next meeting won't be after July.
It's already been scheduled for July 8th.
So the public comment period
We could
ends.
go Thursday. We're still in public comments, yeah.
Oh, okay, so the application has not been scheduled.
That's correct.
Mhm.
The variance application has not been scheduled.
seemed pretty fast to me.
This is the same person that never showed up at our meeting.
It had been,
Was not ready.
he barked or
So
something.
Andy, so you won't, so you'll know, I think our conclusion during this public comment period is that at the next meeting, we would bring it up, make a recommendation to the board, and the board, if they so choose, will write a letter, or however the letter gets written, you guys write the letter and give it to the board, or however. And that, hopefully, then it would, our comments both on the environmental and on the variance will go into the record or into the file, so that when it does come up, not only will our comments be there, but we will have let the council offices know, and people will be organized to show up.
Good.
That's good.
Good, okay.
Have any comments on non-agenda items?
I guess that's what that would have been.
That would have been, okay.
Or board, or committee comment, yeah, I think Marge is on that, yeah.
I would like to comment on that. So if I understand it correctly, commented during the MMD comment period and then for the public hearing process? Have the board review it twice?
No, we're going to suggest that next month,
Okay.
we will agendize this, and if there's agreement among this committee, then we will write a letter that goes up to the board, which is our process, right?
Okay,
And
yeah.
then we will go, and it will go up to the board saying, we are totally unhappy with
Yeah. The way it's been
2266
evolving, yeah.
and what is being asked,
Okay.
and whether it's on the environmental or the variance or both. I don't have the technical knowledge to know which one it is, but you guys will write it, and it'll go
Okay,
to
so
who it needs to go to, and if the board approves it, the letter will be written, and it will go into that file on the 2266 lots.
okay. But my only concern is that reviewing the same project twice.
When are we reviewing it?
Well, if you review the MMD public comment period, that's once. And then prior to the public hearing, it's normally reviewed all together all at once, not separately.
But it's not, so.
But it's
Well,
not,
well,
but
So,
I
so
understand, I
you
understand
have
what you're
a
saying.
concern, but the reality is it's separate. So we're not, we don't want it to just stand being separate. We want to say something loud and clear about 2266.
The past history, yeah.
It's my,
If I may.
that's our understanding, right?
Yes.
Oh,
Did you have a question?
yes, I was going to say, if I may say, we can always write an advisory recommendation on any case, even if it is not during public period, public input period. So if this committee determines that a recommendation is warranted for the EAF and the ZAD or ZB or ZAA, then so be it. And then move it up to the chain of command on the board and let the board finalize that and get it in there. Then that issue's done.
Okay. So that'll be sometime at the end of August.
Which is perfect.
Well, right, so it'll go up in July,
The meeting will be the end of July.
and
It'll
then
get
from there,
agendized.
it'll
It'll be the end of
Yeah.
third week in August.
Because they've got another 4 months before they get a public hearing,
yeah, so it'll be there well.
at least.
And then those who can will mobilize for whenever the hearing is.
Okay, we have the first item on our agenda is 2344 West 31. Do we have anybody here?
Did he say he's coming? Yeah, and I had contacted him, he's on there, because he said he wanted to return.
Right.
So that was,
Moving on.
Moving on.
we move on.
Moving on.
Well, I got a call from,
But I, just because I'm new to this, if we move on from this, does that mean that we don't make a statement and things could be happening at City Hall and planning that we have not then weighed in on because we just don't have Audie Weinberg here?
Well, he was gonna come back to us with our suggestions
Right.
and comment on that.
But do we know that he's not just proceeding and ignoring us?
He's not ignoring us. I mean, we've got to have some faith in the people that come in front of us, that they are going to
Well,
due
I had
diligence.
faith with the people on Yorkshire. I
I
had no
know,
faith with the
I
people
know,
on
I-
Parish. So
As
I'm
you-
not so much on the faith.
Well,
with the people.
I want to believe that
That was good.
people want to do the best they can when they come in front of this committee.
I would agree with you there. If they show up here, I
Right.
give them full credit.
And I know that we requested some additional items to be done. And
Right.
it may be that the applicant hadn't completed it or gotten the approvals in order to come back to this committee. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. But in reference to your question, which is there any activity going on during the process?
Right.
The answer is always yes,
Uh-huh.
because they have to go through some additional items in order to come back to us. I know one
Right.
thing had to do with some of the aesthetics, and you can't just contact a city representative and say, I want your time right now to give me an assessment and screw the 2 million other people that have other projects going through here. And that, unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And I saw him downtown a few weeks ago. He was very adamant that he wants to come back with some of the suggestions that we had proposed. He had some issue with regard to how he's going to get the clarification on the CDO versus the specific plan,
All right, okay.
which is a problem. We all know it's a problem, but I want, again, to give him the benefit of the doubt.
I know at that last meeting, we had made a lot of notes about projects, and I think we talked about putting it in letter form. Did we do that? Remember we had list? I believe that
yeah,
was
I-
even in our minutes, not our minutes, our notes that I pulled.
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember if we decided to put it
In a letter
in a
form.
letter
I know
form. I
he
know
was-
he wanted to come back to us
Right.
with some of the comments, and I made notes, but whether or not we asked, we agreed to put it in
I don't
written
recall
form.
agreeing to that. I remember that
Would
we
have
were going to
been-
inform him what he needs to do.
We told him verbally, and
Mhm.
if anything's in writing, it usually goes to me.
This was, excuse me one second, yes, we did. Issue a letter to the city that we neither approve nor disapprove of the project, but we have questions requiring a response prior to making any recommendations, and that we request the city to withhold approval at this time. Any concerns or questions are areas of concern of the facade, the FAR. So we did make that statement, and it's because we've been bamboozled by some people.
But we gotta stop. I mean, just forgive me.
But the truth is the truth.
But I've been in this for 10, 12 years.
I
You've
know.
got to really
And the
give
truth
people the
is the
benefit.
truth.
Well, we gotta give
There's
people
some
the benefit.
wonderful people out there, and there's some who are not.
But if we actually voted at the last meeting
To do this.
tell the city what our
Unanimous.
concerns are
He said
unanimously, then we should do that. And we should take it to the executive committee and have a letter on the
That does
agenda.
make sense. If the committee made the decision,
We
we have
did.
to follow that.
It's right here, so we need
We
to have
need
a
to do
letter
that.
for the board, that we request the city to withhold approval at this time. That's all it
That's right, I
said.
remember
Yes,
It's
the
right here.
committee agreed on it.
So we need to make that, we need to follow through.
Okay, so that needs to go on the agenda for the executive committee. Okay.
For all these three things.
All three?
Well, I said the facade.
Oh, not all three items.
There was actually 5 items that
Oh,
we
excuse me,
discussed.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So Mr. Phillips?
I stand
And he
corrected.
could still come and make his
Make a
presentation.
presentation.
But
Absolutely.
right now,
Yeah.
we can just say until
We have it
Until we
written,
have further
recommendation.
for our questions and concerns are addressed, we're recommending that they withhold approval.
To the best of my recollection, I think we did not make a recommendation only because of the fact that the owner developer said they were coming back with our
Right,
suggestion.
but I think.
Right, but we
And that-
did.
that was
It's
supposed
right
to be
here in the
tonight.
minutes.
We did.
We
Yeah.
did, it's right here.
We agreed to send a letter saying we're not taking a stand on
Right,
this,
we're not
but
taking
in
a
the
stand.
interim, we want you not to grant any approvals
Yeah.
until this guy comes back to us and meets our concerns, or addresses our concerns.
It's in
It's in the
the
minutes.
notes.
Write a letter?
It's in the notes.
Well, we could always write a letter, but the city really won't take anything seriously unless it follows the legal procedure. And writing a letter saying withdrawal from advisory committee is not, no one's going to take that seriously.
Well,
No one's
doesn't
gonna
say
take
that.
and
it.
yet,
It says-
and the last thing we talked about, we said we can put a letter in the file anytime, and it
Yes.
will make some, and it will count as something. So
Well-
either it counts as something, or it doesn't.
I'm just telling you from my experience, you'll have this letter saying, oh, look, the neighborhood council, voted against it. That's it.
No, we didn't vote
It doesn't
against it.
say
We're
that.
Well,
asking-
whatever it
We're
said.
asking for you to consider that we haven't heard.
Then what
from
would be
you.
the point of writing any letter at all?
That's my point.
Yeah.
But I
Unless you
mean,
follow.
ever?
Well,
Because then we should just
Let me
disband the
clarify.
committee.
This is not an argument, folks. What it is the committee made the decision that something written needs to go on the file.
Yes.
And I understand that, but I'm just telling you, without it being, for example, the MMD on Moss, if you comment on the MMD, okay, it'll get included, bundled up in the file. But then, when it goes to the public hearing, all the comments of the MMD are brought up again, and then at that time, the decision maker will decide what to do with it then. So you
Right.
comment on the MMD, then it goes to the public hearing, and then
Comment again.
well, it's taken into consideration, but it's unless it's substantive, unless it actually directs at a legal point, a legal issue, or points out a fact, it just becomes part of the file.
And that's fine. And I think they're not saying that that should be the only recommendation. They're just suggesting that. I mean, again, and I'm
Just,
protocol,
I'll
process, and
guys
procedure.
just read the,
I
so
know.
we don't spend a lot of time.
Okay.
It's now 7:25.
And we're
The
discussing
minutes
same item.
say,
Letter.
letter passed unanimous. So if you were here, Andy, Ruby, Bradley, all of us, we passed this unanimously. Let's just accept that we did it, not rethink it,
Okay, well,
and move on.
I'm not questioning that we did it now. I mean, I was at first, but it's recorded in minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you know what, we could do it is we just put it in the file.
It's
So we
easy to
cannot-
do it.
We cannot
I'm just-
send it to planning.
Right,
you know.
We understand what you're saying.
It's easy to do
We
it.
understand.
That's
Right.
not
Because
the
it's
issue.
non-conclusive.
right.
It's not the
Right.
issue.
Right, so.
I'm just
Moving
want to
on.
inform
Moving
the
on. Yes.
committee that it just sits there.
We're making, right.
And yet we voted to do it, so we may as well just do it.
Yeah, the next item is Sunnycrest. We got a very late email saying they couldn't make it.
If I may, Madam Chair?
Yes.
With regard to Avenue 31, would it be acceptable if this committee would allow me to contact
Addie?
Addie,
Addie.
yeah, to kind of remind him he needs to be here?
Well, he told me he was going to be here in the email. He asked, so I'll follow up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, I
No,
apologize, go ahead.
He sent an email that requested to put on the agenda,
No problem, no problem.
So,
Sorry about that.
so I will.
Just so I know, and if we're gonna move on after Sunnycrest,
Mhm.
what is the issue with Sunnycrest that we're looking at? I mean, it's on the agenda, so why is it here? Because there's nobody listed as somebody who's
It's a
coming.
new,
It's a new
it's a
item.
new item.
And what are
And
they
they
asking
said that
for?
they were willing to come here and make a
Uh-huh.
presentation. They were ready.
Oh,
So that's why we put it on the agenda.
Go
But then
ahead,
I got a
Nancy,
very
yeah.
late email saying they couldn't make it.
I thought this was on the agenda once before, was it not?
No, no, it's the
No.
first
Oh,
time.
it's the first
This
time.
is an early
This is it.
notification, the latest one.
I would be very interested in this project, so I would very much like to have the applicant here. When I was the area rep, this is Area 7, we had numerous meetings in the neighborhood because that street is a very dangerously narrow street. And we've had the city out numerous times because there is, I think, a eucalyptus street with a street that's already substandard width that has encroached on it, and there has already been an incident where there was a life-threatening situation, an emergency vehicle could not get through.
Cannot, yeah, it's dead end.
And so
isn't it?
the neighbors obviously have great concerns about, even though this is a last infill, and I think if I'm
Right.
imagining correctly, this is on a corner lot which actually has a flat slope and may be fine,
Mhm.
but I would just like to have that presentation.
I remember that project.
Okay.
Do you
well,
know the
they-
name of the person that's attached to this project? Do we know the name of who it is?
It's,
It's in the office, actually.
Okay,
I'll
Okay, that's all right, never
You
mind.
can grab it if
No,
you like.
no, not necessary.
Marilyn Green, I called her and she's the consultant,
Uh-huh.
but the owners are Catherhorn, I think. So anyway, moving right along, we have a project that we looked at last month, and we don't have it on the agenda, but the developer is back to give us a more update on it. So it's Avenue 33, 6
Yes.
units.
How many?
If
We
I
did
may-
not make any
That would have been public
recommendation on
comment.
that.
How many?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already listened to it once before,
But how many
except,
units?
go ahead.
It-
But can we go back to public comment? 'Cause it's
Well,
not on the
my,
agenda.
my suggestion is if we can just get through the agenda
Yes.
quickly, because it's really, these items I'm ready to act on these items, bless you. And then we can, if the committee determines or the chair allows, then definitely the applicant from a previous meeting can speak. Is that
Yeah, usually
acceptable?
there's an item at the end as well.
For that says open discussion, yes.
And I had requested to be on the agenda.
Yeah, well.
Well,
Is that all right to make it?
Yeah.
Okay.
other committees?
You had requested to be on the agenda?
Yeah.
It was on an email, yeah.
Oh, bless you. It's cold in here. I know.
It's cold. Do you want to look over here? It's your,
So-
your
Are you
list.
like
So-
a freeze?
Is it cold? Cold?
It's freezing.
It's cold on this side.
It
It's
is
freezing
always
on
cold
this
here.
side.
It's always cold in this
Come
room.
on.
Salud.
Dude, maybe in that end it's not
We're
warm.
almost there.
I've got to try.
I have another.
You don't have a cold, do you? You're not bringing a cold over here.
No.
I like it right over there.
The air is getting me.
Yeah. I can
We
tell you.
have events over here.
It's
I was
always
much
cold over
better before.
We don't have too many people here. If we had a lot of people here, we'd be warm.
So item C,
Item C, proposed standing rules for educational land use, agendas, officer rules. I thought we already went through. all
I
this
did
one.
too.
We did.
I was so surprised to see this back on the agenda.
I was too.
Okay,
Okay,
so we're gonna skip it.
but it was being sent to standing, wasn't it?
Bylaws.
Bylaws.
Because all of this is addressed
Okay. I was
in either the
surprised.
bylaws or the standing rules.
Yes.
They're all in there.
Yeah, so we were supposed to send it to the bylaws, so is that going to be done?
I sent a note to Tony, because I forwarded him the agenda, and said, you know, this is on here again.
Okay.
The bylaws committee hasn't met.
Okay, but it definitely needs to go to the bylaws, can we discuss that?
Yeah, and they just need to report to the general board saying, this is the protocol for all committees. Well, that's not time for that yet.
Please.
I have another thing about standing rules and committees, if we want to talk about it. No?
So
Never
we're
mind.
done with C, right?
For C for now.
Let's see, the outreach efforts. I thought about this one, and, you know, in our website, we always publish meetings of the Economic Development Land Use. And if there's any items that are pressing or that are gonna be discussed at the agenda, it always shows up in there. So I thought, that is a good outreach, and now that Helene had another idea of doing it.
This is the
I
way.
just comment on this. You could never do
Oh, thank you.
over outreach, my general approach. You can never overdo it.
Right.
Overdo it. There's no such thing as overdoing it. But then that becomes a practical matter. So how do you balance that? The practicalities of doing outreach and then covering reaching people. And our own approach, you can never overdo it.
It's a pain in the butt. I grant you that, because, you know, in Area 7, you wouldn't think so, but we have lots of hills. And one of the densest population, second most dense population in Glassell Park, because we do have some major apartment structures, and I've gone door to door many times. I think it is really the essence of the charter about community inclusion and transparency that I have made a practice in the past that when we were going to be discussing a project, we had flyers that just went out in the neighborhood so that people knew that we were having a meeting discussing something that was happening in their neighborhood. We had some wonderful outcomes from that when it could have been, I remember we had a cell tower thing and we got everybody together and we had a meeting. And community members, the cell tower companies on Caltrans property, they came out, the council office came out, they negotiated a beautiful deal together. I thought that kind of is the essence of what we would like to achieve in working with the community. But I just question, how could we be discussing some of these projects when we don't have at least maybe the invitation to the people, those directly affected, to even know that we're having a meeting about it?
Don't you think that the area rep should be
That's
aware?
what I'm thinking.
The area rep should be aware that this is happening in their community.
But we need to notify them.
Yeah, well, if
They
they
get the
read up
notices.
on land
They
use.
get the notices.
Really?
They get these notices.
I don't think they would take it upon themselves, and we have some area reps that I would question their enthusiasm for their role that they were voted in to do. And I'm not blaming them. This is tough and it's volunteer work. And some of us work a lot harder than others, and that's okay. But I also think it'd be nice if, maybe some of the people who don't work quite so rigorously as others on this committee would help out as well. So that it wouldn't be an onerous task just on a few, but maybe it can be shared.
Right, I'm not an area rep, so I could do something. But I think also it would be important that, for instance, we're gonna have that neighborhood watch town hall, where every area rep will have a table. If we have an email sign-up sheet, that will help us a lot.
I think it's
toward
wonderful.
knowing, at least that way, and a lot of people already, like, we have a neighborhood watch in my neighborhood. I have perhaps 3 pages of email addresses for people in my area. So if we access that kind of information and we keep accumulating it as we go along, sooner or later, we're going to be able to reach a lot of people.
And if I may, I also think is that it's been considerably different this time around with regard to outreach when it comes to community members. We actually have an outreach committee that really makes it their point of getting the word out about not only neighborhood councils, but events that are coming up and other issues. If we're being asked as an economic development land use committee to do the outreach, I think that's not.
Oh, I don't think that's what you're saying. I think it's use any means necessary.
Ah, okay.
It's more,
Oh, perfect.
if you've got the means, we have an outreach committee, we have an email list, or we will create a better one.
Again, we're volunteers, I know that. Some of us still have full-time jobs and everything else. I'm saying, let's put this out there on a voluntary basis and see, who can pitch in, who can help. But I do think that this is fairly critical, and I will step up and say, aside from missing out on the Sunnycrest one, I will do this for Area 7. And maybe I'll try for Area 6 if something comes up, but I'll make my best effort to cover those areas.
And I echo how important it is. I do it on my own anyway, in my neighborhood. I go up
I do
and
too.
down, and I do it anyway if I see something, and then sometimes people are interested. Most of the time they're not, but I do it for a proposed project on Cazador. I got people together, but I do it anyway for different issues.
Right, a lot of us have at least a 1 or 2 block.
An email list that we actually send out information.
I still
Right.
do it the old-fashioned way. Door to door, create a flyer,
That's my
post it there, and you know where I live. Call me if you have any questions.
Right.
Well,
Okay.
also planning department, I guess is obligated to notify people if there's any
Within
projects.
500 feet, the city.
But
must
not
do
of
it,
the
right?
city.
It's a
Now,
joint
as
No,
an
no.
example, Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council put this task on the applicants, on the developers, and had them do it.
That's
And
illegal.
they did,
But that's illegal.
Well, how did they do it? Do you
It's
know?
illegal.
Specific.
to ask.
It's not a.
They did.
Yes, it
Put
is.
the requirement on the developer.
Interesting.
It's, well,
Because then the
We
developer
could,
determines,
however-
and the developer determines who they want to send it to, then how do you prove
Right.
this?
What if we ask the city that already notifies neighbors within 500 feet to increase that to 1,000 feet? That would save us a lot.
that will be very difficult to accomplish.
Really?
It takes an ordinance.
Takes a city ordinance.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You have to amend the code. I mean, it's a great idea, but it was a struggle
Just to get the
to
500.
to 500, and
It was
that's
300
limitation.
before.
Yes, it was.
And it's actually not 500 for most
Is it
of
100?
the applications. It's adjoining property owners.
Property owners.
Huh, because I got one for about 2266 and I'm across the street in Diagonal.
That's adjoining.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's adjoining.
Maybe they could just put on the letter, please share this with your neighbors. I mean, that would be simple, because I could scan it and scan
But we're
it.
still talking about when the city holds a hearing, not when we do, not when we have a meeting.
Forgive me, I recognize that we have an importance in the scheme of things, but I do believe, much alike with Marge, is that it's really incumbent upon those individuals that are already at their positions, in my opinion, to do their job. And
The area reps.
yes, and I think if they are serious about their position, getting the word out would be inimical of them continuing to be in that position that they serve. So it's,
Well,
I just want to say, again, I understand we're all volunteers here, but I want to make a point now from here out, asking whenever we have an applicant or the representative show up, if we have anybody from the neighborhood of the project that happen to show up.
well, that
So
would be,
that we make sure that we, hear everybody's input on this.
what about if we, on our agendas from now on, when we have an address, we put Area 5, Area 4, Area 3, and then we invite that particular rep to at least
Okay.
be present. And then they can do some outreach, because they're on the agenda comes out 4 days in advance, they can send out an email saying, because if they see on it, oh, look, there's something in my area. I mean, not everybody even knows what area Sunnycrest is in, you know?
I don't know.
Exactly.
I do.
I always have to Google map all these addresses to see where they are.
I don't
So
know.
maybe we should add the area
That's not a bad
to
idea.
each one of
That's
these
actually,
not a bad idea.
and ask that area rep to attend.
that's what we're here, that's for brainstorming how to do this, because I really believe you can't over outreach.
No,
You can't, no
Well-
such thing.
when people show up and say, I didn't know this was happening, you know, and
My experience as a developer, I think you could request the developer to do it. I know I was saying that the Eagle Rock Neighborhood Council passed. I think you can request, whether or not they do it is another story.
right, you can't demand, but you can
But
ask.
you can request. And, because I know I learned a lot by knocking on doors up and down Eagle Rock Boulevard when we were, in that stage of the game.
Makes sense.
And I learned more than I probably wanted to know about all the happy ending places, but that was really interesting.
Hillside requirements.
The
I
hillside
like
policy.
whoever wrote
But
that.
have we
I
finished
thought
the
that was
outreach?
good.
Well,
Mm.
we made a step.
I think we made a step. I mean,
Because
And
I'm still
also,
not
the
through.
next outreach committee meeting will be the first, I believe, Wednesday
Mm.
of July. Public Arts meets after, I think, so probably 6:30 on Wednesday, but anyway, it'll be posted. But we should definitely ask outreach to participate and give us suggestions on how
Love it.
to much better.
That's really good.
That's what the committee is. I love
Are
it.
you on the outreach?
I am, but I won't be here, I start a job on Monday,
Woohoo.
which is gonna kill me until August 11th. I won't be much help to anybody for about 6 weeks.
But you'll still be taking the notes and minutes for the board, right?
Only one more time.
What do you mean only one more time?
Well, we elect a new executive committee.
Who said who said they weren't gonna let you back in?
But anyway, folks, moving along.
Moving on to item E.
Item E.
Yeah, I suggested this, and it's because this board, this committee, sometimes talks about being proactive and sometimes doesn't. But I thought this might be a position that we can discuss and possibly make a recommendation on. It seems this comes up often about requesting, and I'm not talking about down at the Collector Street, just in front of the project site, that there should be no question that a street width should be less than 20 feet.
Well, I had trouble understanding it, so can you elaborate what you're looking for?
Just a statement coming from, recommendation from us to the board, just stating that it would be our recommendation that when the city is considering new projects, approvals, in residential hillside areas, that we would automatically take a stand in support of a minimum 20-foot width roadway, to put it in positive terms.
Especially if they're asking for a variance to reduce it
That's what
from
we
20.
mean. We're just,
So that we're not judging.
what I'm trying to do is to keep us from having that same issue come up again and again and again. We just set a policy.
It's really messy, and I can't believe 20 years later, I'm still having to try and explain this.
Please.
I'm not talking
No,
about
we're not asking
collector
that
road.
question.
No, but
Please, Andy.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get at your point. I'm trying, so to understand that you want to take a position that if a project is on a street that's less than 20 feet wide, that we oppose it.
Not that we oppose the project, that we just have, we take a position of always requesting that the city maintain, when looking at applications, that a street be a minimum of 20 feet wide.
Now, when you say street, and I'm just doing to
In
clarify.
front of the project.
All right, because that's what the city does, actually, and I've never heard of them granting it to be less than 20 feet. That would
Yet we
be,
get requests for variances all the time.
I know, but not in front of the property. You always have to do it for your portion of the property. It just, I can't ever see it, the situation where a rise would be not required.
I believe on the burial properties that we were just discussing a couple of, Kinney Street a couple of months ago.
They will be, their design, they will be required to do the 20 feet in front of their property.
But they were asking for a variance to not have to do that.
When you ask for the variance, you have to go through the procedure because it requires it, but it's not asking for it. But that will never be granted.
If I may, I don't see any problem with writing an advisory recommendation that all hillside streets in Glassell Park be considered to be, request that the ZA provide the minimum 20 feet. I don't see any problem with that. The zoning administrator, as well as any other city official, can choose to look at that letter and consider the site conditions and or those overcoming issues that an applicant or developer has to deal with and make a decision upon there. As you all know, anytime that you put in a request, we're just an advisory body.
Right.
And so I don't see any problem with writing a letter making that recommendation. It doesn't necessarily mean that a project is going to be killed or that someone can't develop or build, but I don't see any problem with that because other cities, other communities have done that as well. And just so that I understand where Andy's going, it's the process. Regardless if you do or don't want to widen it, you still have to apply for that ZAD. You don't have a choice and pay that fee.
A little background on that. That section was never intended to be
A relief.
interpreted the way it's being interpreted now. It was written, and I was there when it was written, and I spoke to the person who wrote it, Dave Kawashima. He said, the way the language came out is if you applied, if you satisfied the hillside, the sprinkler requirements, if you improved the street in front of you, and if the other condition in that section, then you won't have to go through that process that's under 1224A.
1224A17.
A17. You won't have to go through that E1,
1, 2, and 3.
So the way the language came out, all these projects have to go through it, and it was, and it went out. Hector Butrago
And
came
pay the
out
fee.
with it to a homeowners group, and now it's in and will never ever be repealed, even though it was not intended to do that
Right.
function, because they knew you could not ask the road to be widened only, anywhere else. The only place you could ask it for was in front of your lot, and it will always be asked for.
You don't have a choice. The code
You don't
requires
have
a
a
choice
choice.
for it.
But by writing this letter, we don't have to debate it every single time a developer walks in the door and says, we want a variance here.
As long as it's in front of the substandard, it's in front of their lot.
Well, of course.
Yeah, because
I
you're
mean,
not
we're
going to
only talking about it in front of their lot.
And that's perfect. I think that language right there
But
speaks volumes.
It tends to, I've only been on this committee for less than a year, but it seems that every developer that walks in the door practically, not like 7-Eleven, but, almost every person that comes in on a hillside lot asks for a variance.
You have to.
Okay, so we can just go on record as saying, when this comes up, we are on record
I
saying.
agree.
Yes, I know
Yes,
you
it
do.
would stop a lot of,
I love
A lot
it.
of chatter.
I love it.
So
Moving on.
I,
need to make a motion.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to move that we draft a letter stating that all hillside streets within the Mount Washington Glassell Park specific plan and hillside ordinance be a minimum of 20 feet wide in front of,
They're
Stated
subject
property or
property,
whatever.
right, from their subject property.
It's an
when
advisory.
considering applications for new buildings.
Right.
So, that's my motion.
Is it an advisory letter?
Yes.
It's an advisory letter. Well, as opposed to what?
It's a letter.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
We're
what's the
asking for an
difference?
advisory.
Everything is advisory.
Everything.
We're an advisory committee.
You're both speaking the same language, just different,
Okay,
different verbatim.
all
Is there
right.
a second to the motion?
I second.
Thank you.
We both second.
Bradley? Oh, I'm sorry, is discussion finished?
No,
Okay.
if I may. Again, the clarification is that the committee makes the recommendation that subject properties that have less than 20 feet are not to be waived for less than 20 feet. And my concern is to make sure that the committee knows the process of how the decisions are made at the ZA's office, and that this is advisory only, an advisory recommendation.
Anything that comes
Is there
from the neighborhood
ever
council is
any,
advisory
I was gonna say, is there ever a letter that comes from the neighborhood council that isn't advisory or recommending?
It always is.
But I understand.
Really? Yes, there are.
Yes, there are.
We can actually force their hands on things?
We can't force any policies,
Okay.
but there's certain things that you can do.
Such
Because
as-
policies are always.
I'd love to know.
We're not going to discuss it here, because
Okay.
we're talking about this
That's
issue
a
right now.
side, yeah, that's, I
It's
can
a side
talk to
issue.
you about that.
All right.
Sometime, yeah.
Okay. Is that acceptable to you in that language?
Well, I'm not asking for her to change her.
The language is pretty much what's in quotes here on the agenda, except that when 20 feet wide, when considering applications, actually 20 feet wide in front of subject property, when considering applications for new building permits.
Excellent language, love it.
Are we ready?
Yes,
Bradley?
yes.
Ruby?
Yes.
Chana?
Yes.
Andrew?
Yes.
Marge?
Yes,
And Wayne, yes, unanimous.
Unanimous.
great.
Okay. Now we can go back to Avenue 33,
Well, we can go back to public comment.
or public comment.
Hello, everybody. I'm
Hey.
back. I have site plans for everybody with.
thank you.
So,
And there's an easel for you if you want.
yes, thank you for that,
Sure.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, we lost the fence.
Ooh,
Okay.
Added.
So, as you can see, we added a window. I know that was a concern. From the facade, so that's quite simple.
break up the mass.
Yes, it's 3 by 8, pretty simple. And then the thing with the wooden fence is we would prefer not to have one ourselves, but CDO requires it. So we asked our architect to kind of go with something that's a little less, a little bit more easy on the eyes.
Mm.
So it's lighter and it's a little bit more far apart. The wood, it's a wooden slab, 6 feet fence. So CDO requires it, and we've kind of already been through the CDO process, so it needs to be there. Yes.
Does it require that height?
Yes, I think I have to check on that, but I was actually just going through the CDO and I wrote the written narrative when we were submitting it. And I think 6 feet is the minimum requirement on a 3-story building, but I will have to get back to you on that. Yeah. So that was that, and then I know that we were talking about plants, and so we've incorporated drought-resistant plants, of course. We have golden barrel cactus, Egyptian lavender, and broadwood beef stone crop along the front of the property and the back of the property. So that's something that we definitely want to do. And also, I wanted to address, I know that it was an issue last time in terms of, this rendering it here is just to show the east side of the property. Tony Messia's building, which is right along Eagle Rock Boulevard here, the arborist building, I have a picture of it. It's actually only 5 feet from where this is, but we couldn't obstruct it, of course, because it's a rendering and it's for you to see the building in its entirety.
So you would never, ever see that angle?
No.
No,
Okay.
because I actually have a written out of that. So along here, essentially, is where our building is. Right here. So where you see this white little area is the existing structure now, and that's where that would be. So,
And the Tony Macias building is 2 stories high, right?
yes, it's 2 stories high, yes.
But there are apartment buildings along that area that are 3 stories, some of them, one is
Yes,
a
there's
4 story. I
one-
don't know how.
Right,
Yes,
what I'm
that's
saying
why
is,
it's blocked.
this wouldn't be that obtrusive,
Because you wouldn't
given
see
what's
it.
in front of it.
Yeah,
And really, the only time you'd ever see the height of it is from Avenue 33.
exactly.
So that's barbed wire?
Yes, he has a barbed wire fence.
The barbed wire would be between your fence and
He only has a barbed wire fence along Eagle Rock,
the front?
and I believe along West Avenue 33, but I'm not sure about that. Not along where our lot borders his.
But at the bottom drawing where those people are walking, that would be a
Yes.
barbed wire fence.
That would be,
Along there, yes.
yes, because that's Eagle Rock, right? Yeah, that would.
Well, that's Avenue 33, but it's the
Well-
corner of Eagle Rock.
You know, is it? I'm not sure, Bradley.
If it wraps around.
But it
Eagle
goes
Rock.
around.
It does.
I can't, okay, I do have pictures on my phone.
It
but
does.
Yeah, I could check, but I guess it does.
But there's really nothing you can do about that, that's his property.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
yeah. It's quite unsightly. I mean,
Yes.
we're not happy about it, but it is
Not as
there.
bad as that
Yeah.
Built-Well roofing place on, across from St. Bernard's. That's beyond
That's
With the
hideous.
blue
Yes,
paint.
David, I agree.
So I see the more vegetation, and where's the window? What window did you add?
Oh, we added this window. in the-
Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
You
just,
wanted
yeah.
a round one.
Pardon? I wanted the porthole, yes.
Yeah.
If I may, there's just one question. You mentioned that, is there any other board-on-board fences along that specific location? Because I don't think there's any, I don't think that there's any other board-on-board. And although you clearly are correct that a fence is required at that specific
I'm
height.
looking at it now, is it under the multifamily CDO guidelines that requires a fence?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm trying to
But
find it now, actually.
You can, with regard to many of these design requirements, you can't add, but you can subtract. So that's where if you have an issue that may need to be mitigated, and a committee, advisory or otherwise, determines that it would not be appropriate for that site or project for that area, that can be an issue of recommendation,
Okay.
to not have it.
I'm looking at the guidelines now, and the key operative word is guidelines. It's where this committee actually has more authority than being advisory. Because if the CDO guidelines are a guideline, the CDO contains guidelines, well, the guideline is not fixed in stone, and that's where the committee's recommendation carry meaning. At least so far, I've not been able. It's all guidelines, guideline 1, guideline 2, 3.
Well, that's what CDO is. So it
Yeah,
doesn't have a lot to
essentially,
it.
it's, they can't really enforce it, but it's in our best interest to
Right,
kind
follow.
of appease to them.
Comply
as much as their
As best
guidelines.
as possible.
Yeah.
Need to comply.
I have noticed that a lot of buildings that are, companies that have moved in, like on Edward or Hallett and San Fernando Road, for instance, there's a new building, and they have a fence like this, but they planted hedges, and those things have grown, I mean, like plants all along it.
Enormous.
Within like 6 months, they've really taken over the place, and then that new LA River Studios at Division and San Fernando are doing the
Yes.
same thing. So this could in fact turn into being a trellis if you planted plants along it. And do you think you would get more renters by having 6 feet as opposed to 3 or 4? Because they'd feel more secure?
That's a good question. I mean, really, essentially, though, we can only have hedges alongside here, okay? And I think that would work probably best for the neighbor down here, because they do have windows, so for the person living here, if it were me, I wouldn't want
Want a
to
private
Right, right.
Oh.
The roll
It's
gate,
not
slide,
that gate.
It's
Got
like,
it.
slider,
Yeah,
In which case, a 3-foot fence will.
it's not gonna work, yeah.
yeah, so that's the other issue.
Okay.
so if it slides, it really is not gonna work because it would slide back down here.
Yeah, so any type of vegetation along there is not
It's
gonna
not
work.
gonna
Yeah,
happen.
it won't work,
No.
yeah. I mean, we could consider doing it here, there is a stretch here about 3 to 4 feet where we can have more vegetation.
I don't see a problem with the project.
No, I'm just saying, it's a way to make the fence less unattractive.
Right, right.
But
But how
if
do
it's
you
gonna,
do
if
that?
it's,
I mean,
if it's,
it's a
you know, like
simple
an
solution.
18-foot wide retractable gate,
Yeah.
then there's no hope
Yeah.
for that.
On a 30-foot wide lot, yeah.
15 then.
Good to go.
I guess at this point, there are any other comments or discussion?
So do you need something from us?
I think I need a vote.
We need,
You can't.
Not today.
not right
Not on
now.
the agenda.
On the agenda.
Okay, oh,
And our apologies.
no, that's okay.
Our
I
apologies.
mean,
You were
I'm
on
happy
the
to come back,
agenda.
it's not a
We
problem.
could,
I mean,
Right,
yes.
But you weren't, so we can't.
But you can request, as the recorder's here, you can request that it be put on the upcoming agenda.
Yes.
And she will make sure it's there. She's gonna
Well,
write that.
actually,
No,
no,
because
not
the agenda
anymore.
comes from Andy and
Yeah.
Louise.
The agenda does.
Right,
No, the
But you
agenda
can
will come from
request.
us, yeah.
right.
But
So
they
you
heard it
requested-
themselves.
Wait,
Really,
just send
Andy?
me an email.
Yes, don't worry, I'll
I
send
was
it.
busy last.
No, that's okay, it happens. I mean, I have to present anyway, I don't mind coming back.
That was under the.
Okay, so we're.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now I've forgotten what that other thing was.
Also for all the improvements.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
There was something else I wanted to say about that.
Very nicely done.
Thank you,
Very
I'm
nicely
happy
done.
that you guys like it,
This is
definitely,
the kind of
that's
stuff
what we're
we
about.
love.
That's what we're about.
This helps improve our community. That's all.
I don't remember seeing it. I went through all my emails.
I move to adjourn.
Oh, I second.
Agendas.
Set third.
All those in favor?
Adjourning?
Yes.
Very